Hi, everyone. Welcome to Adobe Live on this Friday. I had to double check there for a second. It's been a year, huh? Hey, welcome, everybody. Glad to see you all joining. My name is Kylie Pena, and I am a senior product marketing manager for Premiere Pro. And I brought some friends to join me on Adobe Live today to talk about media intelligence. So, as a product marketing manager, I'm working a lot on like the business opportunity and the strategy around what we should build and why and when. And I collaborate with some really smart people. So, I want to introduce you to Matt and Teresa. Matt, tell the people what you do.
Hi, everyone. My name is Matt Christensen. I am a quality engineer, a senior quality engineer on the Premiere Pro team, specifically the team that works on the AI and machine learning features. I've been with Adobe since about 2017, and before that, I was working in post-production as a colorist and a finishing editor.
So you've seen some stuff.
I've seen it.
And that's awesome. Like a lot of people that work on Premiere Pro have that background of coming from the industry, and we bring a lot of the very interesting experiences that we have had to make the product better. So it's really interesting. And then also there are a lot of people that come from very different backgrounds, like Teresa. Introduce yourself.
Yes. Hi, I'm Teresa Demel. I'm Principal Product Manager for the team that Matt works on, the Media Sensei AI Features team on Premiere Pro. I've done a lot of things in my career, from hands-on science education, all the way to building a holodeck. But I do love being in the innovation spaces, so I love working on the AI features for our pro video editors.
Yes. Really good stuff. So, all right, we've got a good number of people watching. Drop in the chat where you're watching from or what content you work on. When I was an editor, I worked a lot in documentary and unscripted and kind of also just like corporate things like that. So I'm always really curious to see like where our viewers are watching from and what kinds of things that you're working on right now. So if you want to drop it in, I'd love to hear it. In the meantime, we're going to talk about media intelligence today. So, media intelligence and search is something that we launched earlier this year in Premiere Pro. And it's really an amazing tool for getting to know and finding your footage very fast. So I don't know, Teresa, do you want to talk a little bit about do you want to talk a little bit about what media intelligence means?
Yeah, so media intelligence is really about taking intelligent metadata that we can gather about your footage. Speech to text falls into that category. So now that we know what's in your transcript, we can also know what's being talked about. We can know visually what's in your content. We can know about audio. And once we have that information, there are all kinds of things that we can do, from taking your script and recommending B-roll all the way to finding all the burps and helping you get rid of the burps in your video footage. So, what we'll be demoing today, I'd say, is really kind of the beginning of what we're doing with media intelligence. And we're excited to hear from you what you want next.
Yeah, why don't we jump into a demo? Like we're here. Let's show the people what we have. So, Matt, do you want to jump in and give a little bit of a demo of what we launched earlier this year?
Yeah, we'll do. And feel free to interrupt me
Yeah, of
anytime.
course. I always feel free.
Great. So yeah, here I have Premiere Pro. I've got a recent project loaded up with just like a commercial spot. And I think the thing that is most exciting about what we started with media intelligence is the visual search, right? But in deciding where to put the technology of visual analysis and visual search into Premiere Pro, we ended up going with a new panel called the search panel. You can find the search panel up in the top right of the header bar up here, or just like any other panel, it's listed under the window menu here. By default, the search panel pops up as a floating panel because we recognize that a lot of people might need to search and find something and then dismiss it and move on with their cut. But of course, just like any of our panels, if you want to dock it somewhere, you can do that just by grabbing the tab and, for example, docking it like that. And there's not much to start with the search panel, except for a fun little animation here. But I think the thing that's honestly, as someone who's been doing this for a long time in the industry, what's most incredible about visual search is just how easy it is to get started. And the idea behind visual search is now Premiere Pro has watched your footage, it's analyzed all the video frames, and it understands how you speak and how you describe the frame. So I'm going to start. This is a spot about athletes working out and kind of like a fake energy drink and all that kind of stuff. So you can imagine what that looks like. And I can search for something like cold ice bath. And just like that, I'm presented with 9 out of 34 results. So out of all the sequences and all the clips that I've already imported and had analyzed, I found these results, and I'm going to click view all. And I think the thing to point out that's maybe not immediately obvious is we're actually finding the ranges within a clip. So it doesn't mean I have 34 clips with something that looks like a cold ice bath. It means within all of my clips, could be 100 clips, could be 2 clips, we see 34 regions that to our AI model looks like a cold ice bath. So with these results here, I can use hover scrub just like I do in the project panel to kind of preview them and see what's going on. And I can also act on these results. But before I do that, I want to show off probably the most unsung hero, which is the quick filters on the top. So right now we're showing all results. But like I mentioned, we're showing results that are source clips, and we're showing results that are cut into a sequence. I can choose just source there to see that I actually have 28 results, or I can go to just sequence, and I'm actually only seeing where in sequences I've used this clip. This is killer if you need to say,
I love that, because I am, as an editor, always getting lost. Everyone has their own organization method, but at some point you're like, where is the thing in the sequence? So being able to search and then say that is there, it is so killer. You're right.
Not only that, it's did we use this, right?
Yeah.
And Premiere has always had the ability to look at a clip in the project and say, has this been used? But that could have been a hour-long clip, and all it's telling you is, yeah, it was used somewhere. This is saying these sequences have cold ice bath somewhere in them. Yeah, so let me jump back to source, and just like you'd imagine, you can do some of the basics, like take this guy and drag it right into your timeline. And now you've got the audio and video dragged in as well. If I double click it, it loads that clip into the source monitor instead, or I can maybe set my in and out points, get rid of the clapper and kind of decide exactly where I want to push in and pull out and go from there. And if I right click, we've got a handful of other options too. So making a new sequence, or revealing in project, or even revealing in Finder if you need to see that clip out on your disk. Okay, the next thing I wanted to show is the search panel. Like I said, we were showing off visual search there, but the search panel actually has 3 different domains in it, which are visuals, text, and metadata. So for example, if instead I search for the gym, I'm getting 138 visual results of the gym. Not a surprise, that's what the spot's about. But because, like Teresa mentioned, media intelligence goes beyond just the visual search, we've also transcribed interviews and other boom mics you can see here as well. And I'm finding exact text matches for the gym right there. So if I wanted to find the point where the coach here is talking about the gym, I found it just like that. And this is huge because, if you've used text-based editing or a transcript in the text panel here, yes, you've obviously been able to search within a transcript before, but the search panel is searching your entire project. So you don't have to know which clip he might have said the gym and then load it up and check, or which sequence where he might have said the gym. You can search across the entire project in one go.
All open projects. So
that's right.
I'll have them all open. So that one is just like amazing to me, because one project I think about a lot when we were working on this feature is when I was an editor, I worked with a company that had relatively low budget, but was working on really important stuff. It was a story about arson dogs and how they're trained. And these dogs, they have these relationships with law enforcement, and it's this really great, sweet story, and it's really important. But they didn't have a lot of money, so I had to cram one episode into each week of my work. And this would have allowed me to find stuff so much faster and really spend more time on the polishing part instead of delicately organizing. I mean, I had select sequences with like markers, and I would type in what they said and put it there, and then have to remember where all that stuff was. And I could have saved so much time and really put it all on the screen. So I'm happy for you all now that you have it.
Yeah, I mean, every time as we were developing this, like Teresa said, or I think maybe Kylie said that, a lot of people have editing backgrounds, and every single editor inside our teams who would show this feature to would just be like, oh my God, where was this when I was doing this? Because every single editor has been there, even if you're, fastidious about watching every single frame of your footage and dropping markers and adding little notes. Eventually, you're at the point where you're like, where's the shot where this happens, right? And this can go from minutes or hours searching for that down to seconds.
Yeah. Yeah, I would group a lot of things together that were sort of similar, but then I'd have a whole bunch of things like that were all similar answers, but I'm like, I know that they said this thing. And sometimes I think I was hallucinating and just hoping. So this would have also helped me to understand that I, in fact, don't have that clip. And even better, you have a producer come in the room and they're like, I know we recorded that in our interview, and you have to like listen to everything. And you're like, oh my gosh, am I just not hearing it? And then they realize that, they didn't get it. It was a conversation afterward. It was like, they weren't rolling. They were in the car home.
Or it was in a different project or something else they shot. Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
And so it's a way to almost like prove, well, actually, no, it's not in the project. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm sure that some of them will be like, well, I'll go watch it anyway. You're like, okay, yes. But it certainly helps you to narrow it down. Did you talk about metadata as well?
Not yet. I was actually going to save that a little bit for the filtering stuff.
Okay.
But I was maybe going to talk a little bit about the preferences, such as there are. We can go into technical details if people have questions about it. But at a high level, the media intelligence feature is designed to be invisible, work in the background, and then be ready for whenever you're searching. So by default, with Premiere Pro 25.2 and later, if you open a project, we're going to start analyzing your footage in the background. Or if you start a new project and import material, we're going to start analyzing that footage. A couple things that are common questions that are good to know right off the bat. Everything about the media intelligence process happens on your computer and stays on your computer. So that includes the machine learning models themselves. Those get downloaded with Premiere Pro. That includes the analysis that we get from your video. That's how we understand what's inside of it. Stays on your computer, never leaves your computer. And we do not train or otherwise enhance our models based on your footage or based on your searches. So it's completely private and opaque to us. I'm sorry, that was my spiel about that. With 25.2, we've kind of changed up the preferences. So if you've used Premiere Pro before, we had a transcription preferences. We've combined those now into a media analysis and transcription. And if you've seen the transcription preferences before, those look similar. So really, there's only two new things here. This one on the top is, where do you want us to save the analysis of your media? Because the transcript or the visual analysis is unique to that file, it can be really useful to save that analysis somewhere related to the file so that it can be easily reused later. If you have tons and tons of footage, or you often are reusing footage in different projects, this means you're spending less time waiting for your computer to reanalyze stuff it's already analyzed before. So by default, we save the analysis of each individual media file in your media cache, which means it can be managed by the media cache settings. But you also have options to save it next to the media file itself as a sidecar file. This can be really useful if you work on shared storage or on teams where on different computers, you're all going to have different media caches. And so it's not really going to be reused unless you put it next to the media itself. Or if you don't want it to be cached in any way, you can click Do Not Cache. And then this means the analysis goes into your project's index database and nowhere else. So basically it stays just with that project, if that's how you'd like to work. And then finally, there's a big on-off switch here for visual analysis to say, yes, please analyze all important media, or no, please don't. And it's also kind of cool to note that if you have analyzed some things in the past, and so they have an analysis in your media cache, or they have a sidecar file, you can turn off the visual analysis for any new stuff, but still search and make use of the stuff that's already been analyzed that Premiere Pro will recognize.
So many good prefs. Awesome. Thanks for the deep dive into the preferences. Super handy. And that's something that we really iterated on to make sure we were having the right default for the majority of people, but having flexibility too, right?
Absolutely. We started off internally with the default as writing the files next to all the media. A lot of times what we start with is what makes sense to the engineering brain, right? And like, oh yes, that's where it's most useful because it can reuse it anytime. And I think we gave it to a wider audience outside the team, but still inside of Adobe. And the first thing we got was like, please do not make all these files next to all my media. And as soon as we had that context of like, yeah, of course, that shouldn't be the default. That should be something you choose.
Yeah. Yeah. When I see a lot of files suddenly happen, I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Yeah. What's happening and what have I done? Do you have more demo, Matt? I don't want to cut you off.
Yeah, that's the stuff that came out in 2022. I can talk about some of the stuff that's coming next.
Okay, let's do that in a moment. A few more people joined. I see a handful more people in the chat, so I just want to give a shout out. I see Peter. Sorry, I'm probably saying your name wrong. Is watching from Poland. So you're closer to Matt. Matt's over in Europe, in Germany. I'm in California. And Teresa's in Washington State. So we're over on the west coast of California. I see Bree in the chat. You're in California as well. And a few other people, good morning, good evening. So that's pretty cool. Peter said that they have used the search panel. So that's awesome.
Great.
Definitely update to the latest version of Premiere Pro. And you have a lot of good stuff in there, including media intelligence and search. And again, it's all on your system, so you don't even have to be connected to the internet to use it, which is really great. Yeah, hi KM, how are you doing? Let us know if you've used search, this new search panel and media intelligence in Premiere Pro. Drop it in the chat. Let us know if you've got any feature requests too. You want to see what comes next. You have the people actually working on the product here, by the way. I am, I'm product marketing manager, and Teresa's a product manager, and Matt is, what are you now even, Matt?
Senior quality engineer.
Yeah, but quality engineer, but also sometimes like pinch hitter, PM.
A man with lots of opinions.
Yeah, many hats, but we are the ones.
I should say, so Matt's not going to toot his horn, but we've worked on text-based editing together, and I am good at user research and UX design and testing and making sure things are cool. But Matt is my deep knowledge expert. So like with text-based editing, when it came to how do we handle multi-channel audio, I could go research that, or I could be like, Matt, what should the requirements be for multi-channel audio for text-based editing? So he and I work really well together. I do business things that Matt does not want to do. And Matt digs into technical details. We're a great partnership.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you, Teresa.
Multifaceted people that work on our team. Y'all's team is so smart. You have some really incredible people, and it's a really interesting distributed team too, because you're kind of all over the world, right?
Yeah, so I'm in Seattle. We have an engineer in Utah. Our UX designers in Philadelphia. Most of the team is in Hamburg, Germany.
And that's where Matt is.
I gotta say, when we get together, we make very efficient meetings. Our UX designer is like, here's the spec. The engineers are like, we can't quite do that, but we could do something else. Matt And Kirsten, our QEs, will be like, but that won't be helpful. And we come to conclusions together really efficiently.
Yeah, and I think because we're the team that sort of handles all of this cutting edge machine learning and AI stuff, we also work closely with the Adobe research arm, which are separate from anything product wise, and they're just doing more academic research. What's the latest? What's possible with this technology? And that means our team also works with students or PhD sort of students who are working on a thesis, and sometimes we'll embed with our team, sort of join Adobe as a student and embed with us while they're working on a project, getting to access to really smart people and really smart research teams while they work on their project. They get to try out what it's like to work in a larger company. We'll work with the team. So it's very dynamic and always changing.
And it's really fun working with the researchers. We kind of have to give them a signal and say, okay, a year from now, we're going to want to bring this in. And these are the kind of requirements that we want. It's what we want it to be able to do. And they're great partners in getting our models set up and ready for productization.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's give everyone a look into what's coming. We have a public beta that if you have access to Creative Cloud, you have access to public beta versions of all the products, including Premiere Pro. And when you operate in the beta, you can download it separately from your main version of Premiere. So it's not going to interact. You can bring things into the beta, and then you can also use the currently available version. So you don't have to worry about any conflicts or anything like that. But I definitely recommend jumping into our public beta periodically, if not regularly, because we introduce a lot of really cool stuff all the time. And we will drop in announcements in our public beta forum where we'll say, hey, we have this, we have that. I saw yesterday one of our PMs introduced ARRI HDE decode. So if that's something that really excites you, you can go jump into the public beta and start using it.
I love that that's the feature you call out.
I know, it's just the one that was most recent. Like, yeah, of course, I'm sure millions of you will be like, yes, but if you really need it, you really will be happy. But we also have a lot of really cool stuff for media intelligence and search that is currently in public beta. It's not shipping yet, and we're getting feedback from all of you. And a lot of that feedback has helped us iterate it. So if you want a first look at what's next, jump into the public beta. So Matt, can you show us what you've got cooking in beta right now?
Yes, I'm actually going to keep showing it in what looks like the non-beta app because I work for Adobe and have access to the inside thing. But what I'm showing is available now in the public beta. And just like Kylie mentioned, they do exist simultaneously. So you can do your work done in the more stable release version, but try opening your project in the beta to just try out one specific feature or something like that. You can see in my doc here on the left, I have both Premiere Pro Beta and Premiere Pro 2025 and Premiere Pro 2024 all loaded up on my system at once. And the other thing I wanted to call out real quick is when you're in the beta, you can go to help and go to, I want to say it's provide feedback also in there. And that takes you straight to the forum where you can ask a question or say, I'm having this problem, or here's my feedback on this feature, all that kind of stuff as well. Yeah, so one of the big things that we wanted to do with media intelligence and with the search panel more broadly is give you more tools to search your entire project, because everything I showed right now is great for broad searching, right? I typed in the gym and I've got 138 visual results. I've got 4 transcript results. But for certain kind of workflows or certain times when you're searching for something, you actually need a little bit more specificity. And so we've added in the beta and coming in the next version of Premiere Pro, both the option to sort. I'm not going to go too far into that. It's pretty self-explanatory, but also the option to filter. So what we're looking at now is I've told the search panel, I'm searching across all the domains, visuals, text, metadata for the gym. And that's it, right? I'm getting everything. Let me switch now to something a little bit more like, I just want to see, I know I have this one shot like of a person speaking. I think this is a really common example. Um, let me see. So if I look at all my visuals, we can see there's all these different people like this, or maybe I was trying to think of the one I wanted to do earlier, something like this, right? Interview. I'm getting all kinds of stuff from all different places. But if I know that I want to search in just a single clip, that's where something like the filters can come in handy. These are coming across all these things. So I click on filters and I create a new filter, and I have access to all these different metadata options by which I could filter out other things. So I'm just going to go to name, and I know this particular clip that I'm thinking of that I want only results from has the word Japan in the name. And just like that, I filtered it to just those 11 source clip results for this one clip. I think this is huge, right? Because as soon as we give you the ability to search broadly across everything, now you have too many search results. So the very next thing you want to do is kind of filter it down. One other thing that this is something I, as a user, have wanted in Premiere Pro since forever, is the ability to do more specific metadata searches. So if I switch this to metadata, I can, without even typing in a search thing, I don't have to describe what I'm seeing. I can go directly into the filters and only search by specific metadata. So if you've ever wanted to, for example, find all your clips that are 30 FPS, that's now possible. I can see that my project has exactly one of those clips. Or this is another common one. I want to find everything that's of a certain label color. Now I can just do that. And so these are all 4 of the clips in my project that have a purple label color. I can take these, I can act on them, etc. I think this is really cool, though. We spent a lot of time and got a lot of feedback on how to make these filters work seamlessly. Obviously, you can add more than one filter, but they start to show up as little tags out here. And this way, you don't always have to keep opening a dialog, closing a dialog to change or update the filters. So if I wanted to change the label, I can just click here. I can bypass that, turn it back on, or switch to any of my different colors right here without having to go back into the filter dialog. So it actually becomes a really dynamic way to do the filter. So let me add a new one, and let's change this one to, oops. Let me change this one to name, and I want to see if that Japan, yes, it is actually blue. So here I am with 2 filters. I say find me clips that have Japan in the name and that are labeled blue, and I can edit any of these anyway. And so it becomes a really powerful way, the search panel, even without the visual search, to narrow down and find things based on metadata or find things based on transcript.
And I think I'd love to hear from folks, in the chat, like, what are the kinds of things that you really use to find things? I mean, what we found is, we want to tax your memory less. We don't want to have to make you remember or learn. So what are some of those things that you use that we could include?
Oh, I guess my link didn't really work very well, but I wanted to drop a link to the public beta forum. I guess you can copy and paste that. Okay. We watch really closely with feedback while things are in public beta. And so you'll find posts in there from us asking questions, launching new features, but also you can make your own requests too. You can say, I wish that Premiere did this or this. And we really take that into account when we're building, because if there's a lot of interest over certain things, that's an indication of an area that we need to explore more, right? So yeah, Teresa, why don't we talk more about like that whole process of iterating and building? Do you want to talk a little bit about where media intelligence kind of originated as an idea?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've been talking about it for a decade. And really the technology just wasn't good enough for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of a fun origin story is we have an AI researcher at Adobe named Fabian. And Fabian, just because he decided to, he watched pro video editors work for six weeks straight. He just sat and watched them work. And after doing that, he went back and he he made all kinds of demos, like how can I use media intelligence to automatically group takes? How can I use it to group shots and scenes? How can I use it to find similar? How can I take a transcript and recommend B-roll, right? Like he cooked up all kinds of demos based on what he saw, like where people found tedium and where people were like repeating themselves over and over again. And we took those demos and we put them in front of customers, I want to say 4 years ago. One reason you're seeing visual search today is just the visual metadata rose to the top of, as something being really, really helpful. So like I said, search is just the beginning, but soon we could auto-organize your interviews, or we could group together takes, or we could group together all your outdoor shots to apply a color preset. And then I think the other thing that we learned as we were doing these demos is while visuals are helpful, once you bring in faces and then once you bring in audio, all of a sudden this power really explodes. I can take a video clip and I can recommend sound effects based on your video clip. You know, there's a lot of matchmaking that we can do with your media to just expedite some of these things for you. So Fabian also built a prototype and had people search their own footage probably 2.5 years ago. And honestly, one of the things that took time was just making it work in Premiere, building Premiere so that it can work in new ways. Yeah.
Yeah, it's such an interesting process because you can't just have an idea and then immediately go build it. You have to kind of, take a step back and validate it and think about where does it actually fit into this product and then into a pro video editor workflow. And then where do you start? I think that's one of the most challenging things is we have so many great ideas, but how do you prioritize them? So,
yeah, and I think,
how do you do that?
well, yeah. I mean, I think one thing that pro video editors keep telling us over and over again, it's like, I don't care what AI you use. I don't care if it's AI. I just want you to reduce the TDM. And so as Kylie and Matt, as you were talking about all these things that your memory used to have to take care of, and now you can just visually see it, like TDM reduction makes us prioritize things that are intimidating. I think Rotobrush 2 and After Effects is a great example of something that's intimidating. Things that are time consuming, so speech to text for captions, or expensive, if you're not spending the time, you're paying someone to do it. So we kind of look at those different vectors to prioritize. And then we also just look at quality. So there's a lot of great AI demos that only work 20% of the time. That's not going to help our customers. And so we also want to make sure that it meets a really high quality bar before it comes into the product.
Mm-hmm. So that's why.
And then we put it on device because we know you want your privacy.
Yes.
There's just a lot of
Yes.
steps to get it to the customer.
Yeah, we always try to put stuff on device whenever possible, but with some of the generative stuff, it's just not possible yet. But with models like this, it is more possible because and so we prioritize that. It's also just easier for a lot of editors to be able to edit offline if their workflow demands that too. So it's always a priority for us for sure. And I think that something that's important to mention is we've been doing AI for a long time. And really, it's been what has been kind of surfaced as assistive AI. It's reducing tedium, it's doing the things that you don't really want to do or that tax you mentally. And so, as generative AI has really kind of come out suddenly and in full force, a lot of AI is conflated, but we really think about the assistive tasks. Like the assistive applications of AI are so powerful for video editors. And so that's why we're really working on media intelligence, because as Teresa said, there are a lot of different problems to be solved or things that we could help you do. And it really is an exciting time because the models are getting so good. So we kind of have our choice of what direction to go in.
Yeah.
So
prior to this Adobe job, I was working, like I said, I was working on a holodeck for a billionaire. And it was so fun. It was totally fun to work on a 12K resolution holodeck, zipping people up inside and making them feel immersed in an environment. But it was not helping anybody, really. It wasn't making anybody's life better. It wasn't a particularly good business. And I would look over at those Adobe Max sneaks with so much jealousy because I could just tell that like they were serving people and their needs. So it's great to be working on this team now.
Yes, definitely. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if you joined late, you have people working directly on Premiere Pro right here. So if you've got questions or feature requests or media intelligence or other AI tools in Premiere Pro, let us know in the chat, or let us know what you think. If you've tried it out, is it helping you? Are you missing something? I see a few more people have joined. Kane, hi Kane. Oh, Cody, I forgot to say hi to you. And Cam, I think I already said hi, but hello again. Welcome wherever you are in the world. We're talking about media intelligence and search in Premiere Pro. So we did a demo of what's currently available if you update today, and then what's currently in the public beta if you want to go download that and check it out today. Why don't we talk a little bit about some of the things that we found from this user feedback that we were able to change while we were iterating before we launched this. So we went to public beta in January, and we actually were at the Sundance Film Festival. I was there with a handful of people, and we had a really amazing Adobe presence, and we got to show a lot of different kinds of editors, media intelligence and search, and get a lot of interesting feedback. And one of our researchers was there as well, and it was really amazing and also really illuminating because we came back and were able to apply all of that to the product before it launched in March/April. So I don't know, do you all have any stories about anything that we iterated on, Matt? Anything that you can think of with that, or with what's in public beta right now?
Yeah, one of the things that was the most sort of not contentious, but like that was kind of like up for discussion as we were building this is one of the kind of features of a lot of machine learning models is that they have some element of variability. You hear people talk about hallucinations or errors or things that just kind of don't really seem right or whatever. And this machine learning model is no different, right? So we haven't talked too much about how it works, but it's analyzing your footage and it's basically trying to say, okay, this frame, it's not putting tags in there, right? It's not saying this has this, this has this. It's basically trying to semantically understand what is this frame that I'm looking at. And then it takes what you type in and it says, okay, what is closest to that? And so there's a setting we had access to as we're developing this coming from research saying what's the threshold for what it's going to consider relative, right? So if you turn it a little bit lower, you're going to get more results and they might be less useful. If you turn it a little higher, you're going to get fewer results, but they should be a little more dialed in. And that is a really tough thing to get right, right? For all the different use cases editors might have. And I think we definitely had it too low initially in the beta. We had a lot of feedback from people like, oh, I searched, airport, and the first 5 clips are bang on. That's great. But then the 6th clip, why is that, this? And we had to like very quickly learn first rule of machine learning is don't try to guess why the model showed you something. It's a great way to be wrong. But we heard from enough people that like, yeah, we do want kind of tighter results. We want it to be, we don't mind, we understand it's not 100% perfect. It's not like a human went through and tagged everything, but too many results can just be more overwhelming. So we took that feedback and we tightened up the kind of threshold a little bit based on that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one. Another one that we realized we needed to kind of fix or help everyone understand is actually like what to search for. Matt, can you, we have some more people in the chat. Can you jump back into your demo and kind of show how the search string can really change based on how descriptive or not descriptive you get?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the search panel in Premiere Pro. When I don't have anything yet, I have it set up to search everything. I'm just going to do visuals right now so we can see kind of more of the results. A lot of people, when they first try this, they're like, okay, woman, right? And great, that gives me some results. Or like, you know, man speaking, right? And that's useful, but the real power of this technology comes in much more definition. So I could put in something like holding shoe up to camera, right? And now I'm getting these specific shots where this person is holding a shoe up to camera. There are a lot of other shoes in my project here that aren't from this video. So for example, if I just do shoes, you'll see some of them, or if we do shoes on a track, you can see we have those here, right? I can do close up shoes, and now I'm getting those details right here. So it really, we learned as we were testing internally that like, hey, some of the real power here comes in going a step or two beyond just a single word description, like actually tell it what you're looking for. And so the trick that we're stuck with is trying how to communicate, how to tell people about how this works, because most of the search that we encounter every day, we've all gotten really good at being as terse as possible in the Google search or something like that to find just what we think it needs to know. But because this is based on natural language and semantic understanding, it's perfectly capable of longer descriptions.
Yeah, in Premiere, you're just so used to only being able to search like the file name or whatever. So you're used to even putting in not even a whole word, a fraction of a word. So if you look on the search panel, you'll see that we added some examples and they're random. So every time you launch the search panel, you'll see like mine says right now, baby makes a face reacting to food. So just things that help you to really open up your mind. And the really interesting thing about that is you can discover things in your footage you didn't know you had. That's like the secondary benefit of this. And what I found when we were at NAB, even somebody gave us a ton of footage and I was just searching. I'm like, happy person outside in Amsterdam, because I knew there was some stuff from Amsterdam. And it found exactly that. And I was like, wow, okay, that's really cool. So it's fun to work on a product that you are also delighted by. I will say that.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that I think really unlocks this for editors is you can use different terms, and you can even use cinematic terms or sort of descriptions of the frame that aren't the actual thing itself. So right here I typed in outside low angle. And so we've got all these shots of the track, generally at kind of like waist or below looking up, right? And if I do maybe outside wide angle, you can see we get a completely different set of results. If I just put in wide angle itself, these are the wide, look at that. We get wide angle shots of different things versus if I just put in close up. And so, yeah, even with that, you might not have realized that this one shot had that one close up, or maybe it's not technically a close up, right? One of the results, but you go, oh, I can see how I could use that, right? It is a great way to almost in a way, especially if you scroll down and look at some of the later results, kind of roll the dice and just see like, oh yeah, I guess that is a close up of a bottle, right? Or these kind of things. Here's a close up of a shoe.
Yeah, because it's a semantic understanding, but if depending on what it's seeing, it might think like this looks bottle-ish. And you're like, well, that isn't a bottle. I know that because I'm a human, but that's interesting that it thought that, and how can I use that? So it's also like an interesting way to just kind of vibe with your footage and think about how to put it together differently. Yeah. Let's see. We've got some new people watching. Welcome. Let us know if you've got any questions or any feature requests. And anytime you want to connect with us, go to community.adobe.com and find the public beta forum or the Premiere Pro forum. We are always looking at all the feature requests, bug reports as well, if you've got any issues in there. We look at all of them, and we have teams that reply to all of that stuff. And we also bring it into our development process. So yeah. I don't see anyone new in the chat here. We want to know, like, what else do you want to see us do with this tool? So, Matt, since we've got some new people on, would you mind doing a quick short version of your the demo of what's currently available again?
Absolutely.
Cool.
So like I mentioned before, when you start Premiere Pro 25.2 and open an existing project, we're going to start analyzing any of the footage that's already been imported. Or if you start a new project and import some clips, we'll start analyzing that. That process is designed to be in the background. It's making use of the GPU and on some computers, the neural engine that's really good for AI stuff. But it's also set up, and we did a lot of testing to make sure that as soon as you hit play or start scrubbing your timeline, that background part pauses. So most people, most of the time, you may not even realize that the analysis has happened, but it's working in the background. And then where you can interact with that analysis and make use of it is in the new search panel. So you can find that up in the top right in the header bar here or under the window menu. And the search panel opens up as a floating panel, but you can dock it into your workspace just like any of our other panels. And it lets you search your entire project for visuals, text like from a transcript, or metadata like things you might have been searching for in the project panel before, like comments and frame rates and file names and things like that. So as an example, I've got this project loaded up right here that's like a little ad for a fictional sports drink. So it's got a lot of intense athletes in the gym and everything like that. And I remember there was a shot we had of like a really intense kind of cold ice bath. So I'm going to search for intense cold ice bath. There we go. We found it. And the search panel is showing me not just whole clips and saying, this is a clip. It says, this is the part from within this clip that I think is closest to intense cold ice bath. So you could import a whole, 1 hour long clip from who knows what. And if only a section of that has a cold ice bath or has whatever you're searching for, the search panel shows you just that section. So you can hover scrub just like you can on the project panel and kind of see what's going on there. I can double click it to load it into the source monitor if I want to set specific in and out points. Or I can drag directly from the search panel into my timeline like that. So it's really great for even if you're like late in your edit and you're just like, man, I know I had that one shot. I need to grab the ice bath shot. Instead of going to the project panel, twirling open the bin, finding the clip, loading it into source searching, just pop into the search panel, type ice bath, and you're off to the races. I think, like I mentioned too, they can search transcripts. So I remember we talked about the gym at one point in the interview, and you can see I'm getting obviously a lot of gym shots. This has a lot of them here in the project, but beneath that I have text results. And so I can choose if I want to just show the text results. And these are the 4 places throughout my project where the transcript actually mentions the gym. That's the whirlwind tour.
Yes, the whirlwind tour. I love it. So good. Yeah, this is such an incredibly helpful feature. I use it all the time personally. Yes, I use the products too. I've been using Premiere Pro since version 1, if you can believe it. And it's crazy to see how far it's come. And I see some people in the chat giving a lot of love to all these features. Sean says he loves where Premiere is going. So many great features. Peter, the team is doing a great job. Ronaldo said, the work you guys do is amazing, but the feature that really appeals to me is how you turn the footage to Rec 709 if you shoot in RAW. That's amazing. Yeah, quick shout out to color management. I know we're talking about media intelligence, but if you're if you haven't updated to the latest version of Premiere Pro, you should, especially if you're shooting RAW, because we reworked the color pipeline and we now added a wide gamut working color space. So you can jump over to the Lumetri panel and go into settings. And if you shot in RAW, then just go down and change it to wide gamut tone mapped. And now when you color grade, you're going to get access to all of the data. So it's not clamping it down to 709 and then you're doing the color. You're doing the color grading on that all the data that you shot, and then we're mapping it to 709. So it's a lot of words to say color is better, and we know that color is really important. So And I think that color is an area where we could really do some interesting things with media intelligence, but hey, one priority at a time, right?
Yeah, as a former colorist, can't be more excited to see all these color features come in, and they were sorely needed, and it's exciting too because they are the foundation to build a lot of other stuff on top of, right?
Yeah,
You
definitely.
need that color management solid and reliable before you can start getting even fancier with your color.
Yeah, it's really cool to be able to just set it all up and then just it feels right. It's hard to explain. Color is also one of those weird things where it's like a mixture of science, but also human perception and art. It's like makes it so hard to deal with, but also very, very gratifying when you get it right. All right, we've got about 5 minutes left. So, any last feature requests or questions, put them in the chat. I want to say that you all should jump into the public beta. You can download it from the Creative Cloud desktop app and start playing around with with the new options we have for filtering. But if you don't want to get into the public beta, then go and download the latest version of Premiere Pro. You get the color pipeline. But even better, you get media intelligence and search, which is why we're here today. And it's a really powerful feature, and it really is just the beginning, because obviously if Premiere Pro has an awareness of your footage, then we can really do a lot. And it depends on what you tell us you want. That's where we're going to put our priorities. So we're starting with search, visual search, text search, but what else? So you need to let us know so that we prioritize and build for the right things.
Yeah,
Um,
I think it's a really exciting time to be a video editor, or especially
yeah,
for us to be working on this, because when you actually stop and think about it, it's actually really wild that video editing software has up until now had no idea what was in your video, right? Like literally to the code, to the program itself, all video clips are the same, right? Like it knows, well, this one's HD, this one's 4K, this one's this frame rate, all of the metadata it understood and had to work with. But when it came time to actually show a frame, the computer has no idea what's in the frame. And I think in 5 years from now, that's going to be such an insane thing to have to explain to the kids, right? Or something like, oh, the video editing system didn't know what the video was, right?
yeah,
So I think that's what I really think about when you say it's just the beginning of what we can build.
yeah,
And for the search panel, it's going to kind of take two different branches. One branch is that we are going to be incorporating more AI models into it. And so let us know what kind of things would be helpful, audio, face recognition, logo recognition, things like that. But also it's going to help you find some of that stuff in Premiere that maybe is hard to find, an effect, a marker, a transition, just other things that you want to be able to find in the tool with a click of the button.
yeah. All right. In the last 2 minutes here, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is your favorite part of working on Premiere Pro?
Oh my
You say go
gosh.
first.
The people. I work with amazing people.
Yeah.
I work with really smart, creative, kind human beings.
I think my favorite part is getting to work with editors and customers, and that it's the face of Adobe, or the part of Adobe that I always liked before I joined the company. That it's a very responsive company. It's very open. So now that I'm working for Adobe, whether that's helping someone out on the forums, or meeting someone in real life at an event, or doing one of these things, it's so much more interesting than like if I was just in a cubicle working on, a software development kind of traditional path. I love that there's a direct connection to the people that use the tool.
Yeah, I agree with you both. I think for me, it is working on the software. That was my entry point into video editing, and then part of my long career before I went back into work for the mothership is really gratifying. And then also the perspective that it's given me on editing has been really fascinating. Because I was kind of in a bubble. Editors kind of, end up in a bubble of content. And it's fascinating to go to talk to users from all over the world and realize that a lot of the things that we face are universal. Going to Interby in Japan last year, I I obviously there was a language barrier because I don't speak Japanese, but I could tell like what they were saying just based on the emotion and stuff. I was like, yeah, I get it. Like I don't even need the translation. I got it. And I love that. It's made me really understand that storytelling is universal, which is kind of cheesy to say, but it really is. It's really cool. So I appreciate that. Also, the fact that everyone loves cats here. Sparkle has decided to join Adobe Live. So say hello, everyone. Yes.
Hello,
Okay.
Sparkle.
And with that, we're going to wrap up Adobe Live. Thank you all so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Please keep in touch. Let us know what you think of media intelligence and all the other features that you might use or want in Premiere Pro. And we'll see you next month, first Friday, to talk about another aspect of Premiere Pro.